extremism is a lot to do with having views which doesn't actually represent the majority of society.
Extremism to me is where you have a belief, either a political belief or a religious belief, in a cause which consumes you to the point where all you think about is a mission to change your world or society for your beliefs, even to the point of using violence for that mission to be accomplished.
Extremism for me is when somebody goes too far because of something that they believe in.
I believe extremism is an intolerant belief that affects other people or harms them in some kind of negative way.
Some people do it in a religious context, some people a far-right context, some people with animal rights.
Many times when people talk about extremism, people just focus on the religious side of it, when you can have fanaticism about many other things as well. Like, people can be really extreme about the environment, people can be really extreme about socio-political issues, not only religions.
Far-right extremism are normally political groups that would be sympathetic towards Nazi ideology. Not necessarily, but things such as they would be heavily racist, have very Islamophobic and anti-Semitic viewpoints, and they would be preaching a very, very us and them intolerant view of society. So things as repatriation from migrants, where everyone who isn't of white British origin should be sent home to their ethnic origin. These sort of views, which don't fit in our modern multicultural society, would be considered to be far right.
Ideologies differ, but the stepping stones are quite the same. If I sat next to a Muslim extremist, once we had got underneath and bypassed the religious or the ideology, we'd actually find we had a lot in common. We're both angry, we're both feeling lost, we're both feeling alienated. We've both listened to people who've told us their point of view. We've believed it. We've started acting it out. And the consequences are the same.
I think amongst extremists there is some common traits. Firstly, I would say it would be the lack of knowledge. Maybe they're a bit emotional in what they believe in, and that's clouded their judgment. I think some extremists have a lot of hatred in their heart, a lack of wisdom of getting themselves across, and sometimes even a lot of low self-esteem. They don't have too much faith in themselves, and they have to resort to extreme tactics to go and get their point across.
One of the things I've always noticed about extreme groups, whether they're religious or non-religious, is they always feel though they're being treated really harshly, they're being sidelined or being oppressed in a way. And sometimes this isn't the case most of the time, where you see that there actually are people who want to hear them out and let them put their debate across, but they're not using the right channels to be able to get their message across. I don't think religion condones extremism. I think it condemns extremism instead. If you look at many of the religions, the main ones, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, they all tend to tell you about how to live in peace, and tolerance is a key thing. So Islam, the word itself, salam, means peace towards others. So when you see religion, it tends to teach you to be against extremism and violence, but people tend to misinterpret religion and scriptures to their own convenience, to try and manipulate it to justify their means to an end.
I don't think any religion condones extremism. I think religions expect people and encourage people like us to get to know each other, to reach out to each other, to ask questions of each other, to say hello to one another at the very basic level. So I think religions encourage us to live together in peace and in a peaceful world.
I think you can be passionate about issues you believe in, but you need to be able to draw the line where it gets to the point where you shouldn't be infringing anyone else's rights. So it's okay to have a strong belief or strong viewpoint about something, but just like you wouldn't want someone imposing their views upon you in a oppressive or violent manner. You just have to make sure that you don't do the same thing.
When we see injustice taking place, I think it's our duty, not just as people of faith, but as human beings, to do something about it. That could be anything from speaking about the subject, to asking questions about the subject, to talking to our friends about it. But I think when we see injustice, we can't simply be silent about it.
We're passionate about very different things, and many things as well. Like, people get really passionate about football teams, cricket teams, and you have like people get quite violent about it as well. But at the same time, you can be, for example, a football fan and not be violent, but really passionate about your team. It's just the same thing about any issue. As long as you can draw the line and make sure that your views are not hurting anyone physically or psychologically or mentally, I think that's where you got to draw the line. You can have a say, and you can have a view on things. It's important to have a view. You should have your own view, because you don't want to go with the flow, because that's not the right thing to do. But you need to be able to make sure that you don't hurt anyone else's feelings as well, just like you'd want to be respected.